Now, General Michael Langley is in Kenya for the African Chief of Defense Conference, and I know this person is very familiar to you guys. He's best known for his outrageous remarks towards Burkina Faso's President Ibrahim Traore, where he accused him of using the gold reserves in his country to benefit himself. And this is a statement that did not augur well with majority of you. I mean, guys, many people took to the streets and they were protesting and they were demonstrating and they were saying, hands of Burkina Faso, hands of Ibrahim Traore. And obviously this is not what Michael Langley might have expected, and he made a clarification yesterday. I'll be walking you through what he said. He's standing by his word. He's saying some of these things were taken out of context, but still people are telling him, get off African matters. We are about to dig deeper on why he's here and also the role of AFCOM when it comes to the African continent. But before that, I want us to be able to watch this video together, because I can bet on it you guys have not bumped into this video before. Because tell me why one of the soldiers that these people trained ended up, successfully getting the president of Guinea out. One of the soldiers that they trained successfully led a coup in Guinea, and he's now the president of Guinea. And this is Michael Langley being questioned on the activities and the trainings of these soldiers that end up even leading successful coups in Africa. Let's take a look at this footage together.
Just ballpark, in the last decade, how many Africans has the United States military trained and equipped?
Congressman, I don't have that figure. I can get that figure for you.
Ballpark, just, how many?
Congressman, it would be a wild guess, right?
Seems like something we should know, right?
Over the years, we have trained a substantial number, especially in the Gulf of Guinea states, including
like more than 10,000.
It is more than 10,000.
More than 50,000.
I say we're reaching around 50,000 at least.
And what percentage of the people we've trained end up participating in insurrections or coups against their own government?
Very small number, Congressman. Very small number.
So what percentage do you think?
I'd say probably less than 1%.
But it does happen.
The IMET program is in force, and we've pushed a significant number through our schools across the
and what data sets do you track to arrive at the conclusion that less than 1% of the roughly 50,000 that we've trained have participated in coups? Because it'd be like about 500, about 1% of 50,000.
Congressman, you may have that information. I don't at this time, but I know.
Well, I know there's some, right? Like go ahead and throw up that image. This is Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya. And this is a photo of him. Did we train and equip him? In Guinea?
By name.
I want to roll that again for you guys. Did we train and equip him? Because Mamadi Doumbouya is going to be a very, very important part of today's conversation. Let's just listen in one more time. Did we train and equip him?
And this is a photo of him. Did we train and equip him? In Guinea?
By name, I cannot identify that.
Well, that guy in the middle with the big red hat, Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya, that's him with a bunch of U.S. service members outside of our embassy. And just months after this photo was taken in 2021, he led a coup in Guinea and threw out the leader. Does that concern you?
Congressman, core values is what we start off with in IMA programs.
Do we share core values with Colonel Doumbouya?
Core values. I will repeat that. Core values. Respect for humanity.
Do we share those values with Colonel Doumbouya?
Absolutely. In our curriculum.
He led a coup.
We do.
All right, there you go. Why this clip is very important and why we have to talk about it. I think for me, I was very amazed by how clueless Langley looked. He doesn't have the figures, he doesn't have the number, but he didn't have the same energy when he was talking about Captain Ibrahim Traore. He seemed to know what he was talking about, right? But when questioned here by Matt Guides on the role that the US plays in training people who end up successfully leading coups in West Africa, Africa, or maybe in Africa in general. He had no clue. And instead of answering, did we train or equip this guy to lead a successful coup in Guinea? He's there, he's saying, you know what? Core values. What core values are we talking about? And when you go back to this coup that was led by Mamadi and Abuya in Guinea, one of the things that you will realize, you know, this was something that was highly criticized, because it was very surprising even to Washington for them to be able to realize that, you know what, or to come to terms with the fact that the same guy that was under our training led a successful coup, and now he is the president. But is that a surprise though? Like, even if we were to be honest about it, because tell me why we have images of US soldiers celebrating with the people of Guinea that, you know what, we have a new leader, we have a new leader. If they say they were not involved, what role do they have to be part of the crowd? What role do they have to be celebrating with the people of Guinea? If they say, Matt, we didn't know this guy, we didn't know he was even planning a coup. And I love what Matt is asking him. How many people does it take to plan a coup? A coup is not just something that you wake up and then you say, what, I want to take this president out. This is something that has been planned, and this is something that people have to be equipped. You know, they have their munitions, they have all this military armor, they have all these things that they need to be equipped to have a successful coup. And now he's being asked, how did we know? How don't you know that some of the soldiers that you train end up leading very, very successful coups? And that is one of the AFCOM's key mandates in Africa, is to be able to train. They say, you know, they want to train African soldiers, they want to equip African soldiers. But when the same soldiers you trained end up leading a very successful coup, that is not a surprise. You can't sit there and act speechless or act as if you don't know what is going on. Well, you know very well that this person could, you have intelligence, you have survey. So there is no way you were there training these people and not being aware that they were leading a successful coup in their own country. I think I want to take a look at what Daily Mail had to say about this. And they said, U.S. Green Berets trained the Guinean colonel behind the national's recent coup. Embarrassed Pentagon officials deny any involvement but admit they were caught off guard. That is a Daily Mail's article of September 12th, 2021. And there are so many articles written on how Pentagon was caught off guard in this matter, etc., etc. But this is something that they might never get off their back, because again, you knew what this person, can we say allegedly? You allegedly might have known what this person was doing and what he was planning all along. But back to Langley, because we have to talk about him. As I said, he's here for the African Chief of Defense Conference, and right now, let me just play you a video that explains why AFCOM is here. And why do they really have to call it AFCOM? Because AFCOM is just African, you know, they give it this very bougie name for you to think this has to do with Africa. But this has nothing to do with Africa. Actually, AFCOM stands for United States Africa Command. I think they should call it US AFCOM, but they don't want to call it US AFCOM so that you guys don't get to connect the dots together, that this is just an American, you know, this is just a US military watchdog for Africa. That is what AFCOM is. And there's a particular reason why they don't want to use the US in front of AFCOM. So they give it this really bougie name and they call it AFCOM, but in real sense, the whole the meaning of AFCOM is the United States Africa Command. So it's just part of the US military that focuses on Africa. And I'll be back to what they do, but I did promise you a video. So first, let's watch why they are here in Kenya, and then I'll be back to tell you what they do and what exactly they must be doing or they might be doing, because what is happening right now and what I'm coming to realize, and majority of the people who are also watching, is when people tell you they are here, when Batuk says they are here for whatever, or when the US Army troops say they are here for whatever, you have to really dig deep inside and ask yourself, why are they really here? Most of the time we go with the narrative of what they say they are here for, but most of the times now you have to ask yourself, why are they really here? Let's go to that video and then we come back shortly.
At HOT 2025 in Nairobi, military leaders from across Africa and the United States will meet to address how military operations are evolving.
So as AFRICOM with our partners, when we sit down and start planning how to achieve stability, we do that step by step, and we're all ears listening to everybody's enduring solution to get back to stability.
The forum provides a space for dialogue, collaboration, and strategic planning, focused on regional security, interoperability, and adapting to a changing defense landscape. HOT 2025 is where planning meets progress.
Right, so a very good promo right there. They're saying, let me just play that back kidogo. There's a very beautiful byline there where they are saying they are strengthening African security, sustaining unity of effort here in Nairobi, Kenya. So some of the things that they are here to do once again is boost regional security and also tackle terrorism, right? Sounds like a very beautiful thing right now. But let's also take a look at some of the other reasons that AFCOM is here in Africa. They say, you know, of course, we dealt with training African soldiers, give humanitarian aid, and also support peacekeeping missions. That's exactly why they say they are here. But when you dig deeper, some of the real reasons that they might actually be here is it has absolutely nothing to do with Africa. It has everything to do with American interest in Africa. Here we are talking about the natural resources. When you go back to the statement that Langley made last month, I think that's now almost 2 months ago, when he was talking about Burkina Faso and Ibrahim Traore. You know, why are you talking about gold reserves if you're not interested in the same gold reserves? I mean, what Burkina Faso does with their gold, that should actually be none of your business, if you ask me. What any African country is doing with its natural resources is actually none of your business. You get what I'm saying? So when he talks about the gold reserves in Burkina Faso, when he talks about the role of China and Russia in West Africa, and why America is still number one when it comes to people's interests, then you have to ask yourself, are you really here for us, or are you really here for you, right? Also, strategic locations. You know, when they put, and I love what DJ Bokali said when we had this conversation with him, when we were talking about this whole shenanigans surrounding Burkina Faso's leader, Ibrahim Traore. You know, every time you see troops, whether you have the Batuk or the US troops, particularly stationed in a particular place, then you have to ask yourself again, whose interests are they serving? These things help them with, you know what, they really help them with what they intend to do for the benefit of their own country. They are going to be strategically positioned here in Kenya because they are defending American, or they are safeguarding American interests here in Kenya. That has nothing to do with me and you. They say they are fighting terrorism, and if the Burkinabe people are saying, you know what, I think we are good, I want to say Burkina might not have figured it all together, but they are trying to figure it all together. So when they say the majority of the help that we might need is to deal with these people who are causing insecurity in our own land, why don't you support Traore? Do that. Why do you have to discredit this man? And why do you have to act as if security, great security or beautiful things in Africa can only happen when you are involved, right? And sometimes when you go back to the statements that Langley made in regards to Ibrahim Traore, you get to ask yourself something. If Africans were not woke, if the awakening was not already happening in Africa, then how much damage would this have caused Traore's reputation. He might not be perfect, he might not be everyone's cup of tea, but you can imagine a whole general saying that this leader is using the resources for his own benefit. If the Burkinabe people were stupid, they would definitely start, there would be tensions, there would be protests over our president is using the gold reserves to benefit himself. So if he did not have the backing of the people, if Traore did not have the support of the people across the globe, then you can imagine how this would have been. This is something that is stated slowly, but then the repercussions are major. This is something that if someone utters such a statement, then the repercussions are, the repercussions can be like dangerous to this particular president of that country. So back to AFCOM, which for me, I was expecting even AFCOM is Africa, something, etc. But we are done with that, Let's take a look at some of the scandals and the controversies that they've been involved with. But as we wind up on Langley, of course, when people are supporting Traore, so many people had so many things to say, but let's just quickly take a look at what this woman said, and then we come to some of the controversies and scandals that surround AFCOM.
Hello. I want to speak briefly about Burkina Faso and their president, Ibrahim Traore. As an African-American woman, I am so proud of President Traore and so happy for the people of Burkina Faso. I want to state for the record that African-Americans have nothing to do with any assassination attempts, any destabilization of the country, or any criticism of President Traore. I don't know any American, and I don't know every American, but I don't know any American that even knows who General Michael Langley is. I actually just found out who he was 2 days ago. But when you see Black people being put in a position like that, and then turn on their heels to criticize another leader in another country, that is by design. And they do not speak for us. They are ruining the reputation of African Americans globally, making people think that we feel this way. We have our own problems in America.
Right, right there. So what this woman is saying, this guy is even more famous in Africa than he is in America. And you would understand why he's more famous in Africa, because majority of his work is right here in Africa. As they say, they need to train African soldiers, they need to give humanitarian aid, they need to support peacekeeping missions. That's exactly what the mission is. So he has to be known here in Africa. But back to training African soldiers and connecting this now with what happened in Guinea with Colonel Mamadi, you get to wonder, if you are training African troops, walk with me on this. If you are the one training African troops or soldiers, then if they need to act against you, would they? Would really they? Because the influence you have on these soldiers is major. And why can't Africa start training its own soldiers? Like sometimes you think of some of the things these people say they are doing here in Africa, and you wonder, what will it take for us to start doing these things by ourselves? Because if you're giving someone the monopoly of training your own soldiers, then you're giving them the monopoly of deciding matters security, what happens in this country. You're giving them the monopoly to decide for you. Actually, you are just a puppet. They are waiting for your soldiers to be trained by the Americans. What will it take for Africa to start training its own soldiers? And this is not a small number of soldiers that they were training. You can hear when Matt Guides is asking him about the number. We went all the way to 50,000. So even if you have 50,000 in a continent of 54 states, and you are training few people, a small percentage in each country, these people have the capability of influencing what happens in that particular country. But let's go to some of the controversies. You remember the Niger ambush of 2017, where we had 4 US soldiers killed and 5 Nigerian soldiers also killed, and people were actually shocked that AFCOM was in Niger. You remember that? That is 2017. You might want to take a look at that. You remember the secret drone bases controversies, where they've been accused of having secret drone bases in Niger, Somalia, and Libya. Back to Libya, when it comes to 2011, even though NATO led the bombing campaign, they led the campaign to remove Gaddafi, but AFCOM did provide intelligence and logistic support. So they are not just here because they want to cater to African matters. They are here because they are putting American interests first, right? And that is why when something like the Niger ambush on 2017 happens, that's why the world will obviously be shocked that we even had US soldiers right there, because some of these things that they do are secretive. Some of these things they will say this is a matter of national security, so you might not even have access to that. And Langley seems to be enjoying great relationships even here in Kenya. This is not the first time that he has been here in Kenya. He's been here a couple of times before. As you can see, that's him even with our former deputy president Gachagua in his office right there. This is also him right here posing with Aden Duale and the late General Francis Ogola in 2024, just few days, before General Ogola's untimely death. And this person is wondering, what, like, is there a correlation? Maybe far-fetched, but we might never know. That's him there. This is him also here with your very own President Ruto right there. This is him posing and having great photo moments with the president right there. And now when asked why he said what he said about Traore, he maintains. Let me just read what he said in regards to that whole Traore controversy. Let me read you what he said. Yeah, so this is what he had to say in an interview with Yvonne Okwara yesterday, and he says, Burkina Faso maintains their own sovereignty. They make their decisions, how they use their resources. They make their decisions, who their resources go to for military support. My cautionary tale was just from a military perspective. One day I really want a whole African commander to go to the US and say, you know what, Trump is using you guys to benefit himself. This is just a general. Yeah, I get it comes with its own perks. But you are saying, you know what, you are saying your cautionary tale was just from a military perspective, but you are blasting a whole president. And you are telling the world that this man is not a good president for his country. Who made you the mouthpiece of African issues? Like, why? Man, can you imagine having someone here from Uganda or Sudan or Tanzania going and saying, or being here and saying, I think the president of the United States is using the gold reserves to benefit himself? How would that turn out? How would that turn out? Now for you to say Burkina Faso is a sovereign state. No, that's not what you thought when you uttered those remarks. That's exactly not what you thought. When you say the people of Burkina Faso, they make their decisions, how they use their resources, that is how they have decided to use their resources. Where do you exactly come in, And someone is saying Kenya seems to be hosting a lot of people who are facing criticism across the world. Why are they always in Kenya? I mean, this guy has not been in Uganda or Tanzania, but he has been in Kenya multiple times. What is happening, Is Kenya slowly also becoming a dump site for what majority of the people are opposed to? You get to ask yourself those questions. And also, the fact that AFCOM is here strengthening its bond with East Africa, that maybe might explain, because things in West Africa are not working. Things in West Africa are not working. So people in West Africa are deciding who it is that they want to work with so that they can also be able to benefit their own countries, right? We are not saying Russia is good. We are not saying China is better either. But I mean, you get to go where you also think you will benefit as a country, right? And not just where one country benefits. But as always, majority of you had something to say in regards to Langley's visit in Kenya. And I want to read a couple of your reactions, which are really, really thought-provoking. I want to start with this person who said, of course, there's that whole assumption that Langley is a black man used to bring another black man down. And someone said here, Michael Langley is a stupid house. He doesn't realize that whenever the establishment wants to take down a black man or project, they send someone who looks like us to maintain plausible deniability on their end. Yes. And then Sir Kenneth here said, General Michael Langley should be reminded that Africa is on the trajectory of its own autonomy across all spheres. The American dream is for the Americans. They've never factored Africa into it. All is said and done, let the imperialists get their grip of Africa. Again, Kenneth is reminding us that American dream is for the Americans. It's not for Africans. Africa is actually never factored anywhere, and that is why they will go on calling such a unit AFCOM, to give you this feeling that this is an African thing for the African man, but far from it, right? And Lawi said, how did Africa, for heaven's sake, become the epicenter of global terrorism? How and why now, when Burkina Faso has determined itself? How many lives have been lost in Africa from homegrown terrorism? It's the same script America uses to orchestrate regime change. No way this time. Yeah, and Kenyan lady says, he is still a black man used to hit another black man. Who is he lying to? Nobody is stupid. Least not Africans. Back to sender. They are saying, you know what, Langley, you just go back to sender. We do not want you here. We do not want you in Africa. But let me read this very, very beautiful comment here by James. And he said, the United States should reconsider its involvement in African affairs. If Africa were truly as unstable or undesirable as it's often portrayed, it begs the question why it continues to draw such significant foreign interest. The pattern of external interference, often under the guise of aid or partnership, has historically resulted in the destabilization of nations, primarily to exploit natural resources. However, a growing wave of political consciousness is sweeping across the continent. Citizens are increasingly demanding sovereignty, transparency, and the right to self-determination. Africa is no longer willing to be a pawn in global power plays. The time has come to reclaim agency over our resources, our politics, and our future. And I love what James says. If Africa is truly unstable or undesirable, as the Western media portrays it, why do you all keep coming here? I mean, if Africa is so bad, why do you keep wanting to belong here? Why do you keep setting up your troops here? If we are unstable, if you are going to embarrass our presidents in the Oval Office, if you are going to consider other nations instead of considering trade activities with African countries, why is it that you still want to belong here and put up your troops here? And maybe this is the take home for each and every one of us. Africa is no longer willing to be a pawn in global power plays. The time has come to reclaim agency over our resources, our politics, and our future. And if you ask me, some of the African presidents that we have are to blame. They sell this very cheap narrative of Africa. They will not empower Africans. I think even the borders that have been created, and that's a conversation that we are likely going to have on the platform, where if I need to take a flight to an African country, it's even 3 times more expensive than me visiting a country in the global north, you know. What is happening? Even but Africans, for Africans and by Africans, we are failing ourselves. We don't have these critical conversations on how to have Africa or make Africa move forward as a continent. This narrative will be written for us over and over again until we realize how beautiful of a continent we are that is full of natural resources. And the only way we benefit is when we stop subscribing to that narrative that, you know what, Africa is poor, Africa is underdeveloped. Yeah, that is true, but we do have natural resources that can be able to benefit us as a people. And some of the African presidents that you guys are choosing, they are to blame for this underdeveloped and always subscribing to this notion that Africa is poor. So I love what James said, that the US needs to reconsider its involvement in African affairs. Let's see what Mehmet Vevadag here said. Any country that Michael Langley visits, the leadership of that country must be overthrown. Ivory Coast went through a necessary coup. Our hope is to have Assimi Goïta like-minded leaders. Mali has taught us that you do not negotiate your freedom. You take it, right? Should I add more? Moses said, why is a local Kenyan TV station rolling out the red carpet for Michael Langley, a man whose legacy screams enemy of African sovereignty? Have we sunk so deep into Western puppetry that we now glorify our own suppressors on national platforms? Have we actually done that? So I really want to hear your views on this, and just what you think about this, and where do we go from here, right? Where do we actually go from here? Someone said, killing progressive African leaders to preserve imperialism is unacceptable, even when it's another African or Black person advocating for it. AFRICOM isn't for the benefit of Africans, but exploitation of Africans and Africa for the West. They are responsible for the instability of the nations here. And I want to read the last one by Lawi, where he says, this house and Tony Blair in Nairobi at the same time. Tony Blair is here, guys. Tony Blair is in Kenya, right? Something imperialist in nature is going on. Kenya's interest is being auctioned somewhere. These imperialists are here for the soul of the nation. Capture it and deliver it to the imperialists sitting in Washington. Wow. All right, so it looks like, can't verify that whether Blair is here or not, but I might want to look at that. But what are your views? Do you want to add on to something? What do you feel about the US or the global North interests in Africa and their strategic partnership, quote unquote, with some of these African countries? I would love to hear your thoughts on that. But before maybe we wind up, let's listen to this very interesting video I found online, and then guys, we can be able to wrap it up.
They're not going away. They are coming to power. One way or the other, you're going to see the rise of the black man and the black woman on the continent and in the diaspora. This is our time. You can't stop it. And I'm not just talking to the enemy in white skin, I'm talking to you Negroes. You sellouts. You traitors who spend your days dreaming about seeing your own people destroyed. Imagine a mentality like that, man. People if working night and day to undermine other black people whose only aspiration is to see the total liberation of our people. But with your small peanut mind, your small peanut head, you think that you are to be in control of everything and everyone.
Yeah, very interesting. So I think at the end, you don't want to experience a situation where it's a black man against another black man. It's very sad and unfortunate to be able to witness that. So as always, very interested in your feedback on this whole Langley affair. And also, I love that we've been able to look deeper into this organization and see how does it benefit. Is it for the benefit of Africa or destabilization of Africa. So leave me your thoughts on that. Really interested in what you guys have to say about it, and also maybe to encourage you guys to continue digging deeper and just, you know, just get to research on these things sometimes for yourself, so that you can be able to have a deeper understanding. When we see there's a conference here in Kenya, you have to be able to ask yourself, why is it here? When you see one black person very strongly claiming that a black president is using the resources in his own country to benefit himself, dig deeper and ask, what might we not be seeing here? When they keep selling this narrative that Africa is unstable, insecure, and we need them to be able to help with our borders, what exactly are we not seeing? Some of these agreements we might never get to understand what they mean. Some of them, they are very confidential, again matters national security. So it's upon us to be able to internalize this and just ask ourselves, are the dots connecting here and there? But leave me your thoughts on the comment section. I love that you keep asking me to take a look at other topics. I appreciate that, and we are definitely working on a couple of other conversations that will be premiering here on the platform. But let me know, what else do you think we need to pay keen interest on, or what else can we be able to take a look at this very moment, right? I appreciate you guys. Hopefully you get to dig deeper on such matters, as I said, and hopefully you get to comment what your take home has been on today's conversation. Again, before I go, a warm welcome to all the amazing new subscribers we have on this platform. That's not something that we take for granted. Thank you so much for showing us the love. And just to remind you that in case you've watched this all the way to the end and you've not subscribed, please subscribe if you find our content amazing, and this will definitely go a long way into making sure that this content keeps reaching a lot of people across the continent. I appreciate you. My name is Lynn Ngugi. A huge shout out to the team that put this work together. Do not take you for granted either. See you guys tomorrow, 10 a.m. or 7 p.m. Bye-bye.